Hey guys, it's Araceli. Welcome to my new YouTube channel, Araceli Unfiltered, where making people angry is going to be my new professional sport. Enjoy.
Look, as I hear my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, what I hear is the same racist, misogynistic trash, different decade. Republicans are invoking historical policies intended, let's be clear, to disenfranchise Americans, especially working people, women, students, indigenous people, and anyone who can't afford the burdens of a new bill. The Save America Act is yet another Republican attempt to intimidate and suppress the votes of anyone who threatens their extremist white supremacist agenda.
That was hard to watch, but before I get into what the bill is about, I want you to take a moment and guess what the legislation addresses, that she's using this emotionally charged language to get a reaction out of you, a negative reaction out of you, right? And Democrats are phenomenal at doing this, at using emotionally charged language to get you to respond without thinking. The bill that she's talking about is the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act is proposed federal legislation that would require documents proving your U.S. citizenship. Listening to this language, would you assume that she's talking about legislation that just requires you to prove your citizenship?
What I hear is the same racist, misogynistic trash, different decade.
Racism and misogyny for a bill that requires you to show proof of citizenship. And I feel like when we use language like racism and misogyny, knowing that historically there has been laws that have affected women and negatively impacted and discriminated against minorities, that we're not taking what happened in the past seriously. We're minimizing it when we compare it to something like voter ID laws and calling that racist and misogynistic. There is like layers and nuance to this type of racism, right? Because when you're assuming that minority groups are less likely to have identification and it disproportionately affects them, think about what that actually implies, right? You're suggesting that Hispanic and other minority citizens are somehow less capable of obtaining basic identification, that they can't navigate the same systems everyone else uses to get a driver's license, a state ID, or even a passport. Like, I'm Hispanic. I know how to use an iPhone. Everybody knows how to use an iPhone, right? So all you have to do is Google DMV, Google post office, because you can get a passport at the post office. You pay $40 for a license in California, and that's it. That's how you get a license. That assumption that we don't know how to use a phone, that we don't know how to read basic English, that we can't figure out how to Google something, because you can Google, hey, how do I get an identification? How do I register to vote? Is patronizing. Millions of Americans, despite, their race or ethnicity or background, hold identification. It's never been a problem until we're talking about voter identification, right? Because if we had government representatives that were this passionate when it came to raising your taxes, watch.
Republicans are invoking historical policies intended, let's be clear, to disenfranchise Americans, especially working people, women, students, indigenous people, and anyone who can't afford the burdens of a new bill. The Save America Act is yet another Republican attempt to intimidate and suppress the votes of anyone who threatens their extremist white supremacist agenda.
Like, imagine if our politicians were this passionate when it came to preventing another bill that would raise your taxes. Imagine if they were this passionate when it came to preventing the mile tax in California, because eventually we're going to get taxed per mile that we drive, right? We would live a lot more comfortably, a lot more would get done, a lot of the issues would be solved, but instead they're using this kind of passionate and emotional language to, for some reason, convince you that the voter ID laws are racist and that we shouldn't apply them.